Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. like a badge. We guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down. We just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. Happy Friday to you. It's kind of weird how to say that. You'll understand why when I explain it. But good morning to one and all. Thanks for being with us. Starting at 6 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock following the show open. By the way, chatters, I didn't get into the chat much yesterday. Typically, show opens are, 30 seconds or so. I'm playing that 2.5 minute song pretty much every day. Are you cool with it? I get a lot of great feedback on it, which is why I just let the whole thing play. But my son asked me a couple of days ago, what is that song you play every freaking morning? Because he hears it coming from the other room. I told him what it was. It was a song I actually created or had made. I had an idea and I threw a few lyrics together and I told it, make a full song out of this, and boom, there it was. Do you like it, you guys? Do you want it to be played at the top of every show like this, or do you want me to dial that back a little bit? Jimbo gets me fired up every morning because Yo Jimbo is always on there telling everybody crank it up, let it roll, which is the beginning of that song. I'm just kind of curious. Do y'all like it? Sure Bink, already in at it. Oh, wait a minute. What's that little thing? I didn't ask to have my name put up there. So let's get rid of that. Yeah. Either one of those things. There we go. It's always, like I told my friend Brian, who first kind of started showing me about how to do all of this stuff, said it's like Tetris. If you ever played Tetris when you were a kid, it's kind of like that. Yeah, there we go. It's dropping pieces in on the screen while I'm also trying to do the content of the show. It's taking this little piece and putting it over here, putting this part up here. I got graphics, I got banners, I got music, I got sounds, I got audio clips, I've got shared screens. It's kind of all got to be pieced together or else you lose. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. And now I'm trying to, like I said, I'm also trying to incorporate the chats and get you up. Let's see here. Let's it's free for all. If you didn't see the beginning banner, it's free for all Friday. I do have a guest, Bill Roemer. I was talking about Bill Roemer a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It was on the show, but then also off the air. We were talking about if the property tax elimination constitutional amendment. First, if it gets on the ballot for November. Second of all, if it's passed to get rid of property tax. There's a whole lot of Ohio departments that are going to have to be trimmed big time in order to make up for the loss of that revenue, which quite frankly, I don't have any problem with. I'm sorry, I just don't. I am fundamentally opposed to the idea of property taxes. And I didn't really think about it much until they started jacking them up to levels that were just completely unsustainable. But the entire concept of property taxes to me is offensive. I think about it all the time ever since, the axe to tax guys kind of really started, getting into the constitutional amendment idea. I really just kind of didn't ponder it that much, but we do need to ponder it. We do need to think about the fact that it's double taxation, and it should be illegal. You don't buy your home. And I don't want to go too far off into this, but I'm going to talk to Representative Roemer about it at the top of the second hour at 8:00. Other than that, it's free for all. And we're going to have fun with the chat. But as it pertains to property taxes, who really opened my eyes to it more is Ron DeSantis down in Florida. Ron DeSantis pointed out, it's like, when you own a home and the government tells you pay us to own that home or we'll take it away from you, then you don't own the home. Right? If you don't pay us for the right to own something you bought, then we'll take it away from you and you shall be homeless. You don't own the home. That means the government owns the home and they're leasing it to you and you got to make them payments. It's just, Ron DeSantis really kind of got that very clear in my brain, much more than anybody else. But I am on it now. I'm laser focused about that. How it's double taxation. The home in which this studio sits right now, my wife and I bought. We bought it. We paid for it. Mortgage payments, just like everybody else. This is not new. This is the way it works. And the money that we paid for this home, we got working. And we work like everybody else. We get a paycheck and taxes are taken out of that paycheck. And from what we have left, we paid for the mortgage for this home while meeting all of the other obligations. Again, this is just normal American family stuff. But our money is taxed to buy the home. Our money is taxed from every nickel we earn. It is taxed. And then with what's left, we buy the home and we make the mortgage payments. But in addition to that, then after you buy the home, you are taxed to own the home. So your money was taxed that you bought it with. And now when you own it outright, then what? Now we're still taxing you for the home that you already bought with your own money that was taxed. We're taxing you again. And if you don't continue to pay that tax, even though you've already been taxed on the money that it took to buy the property, if you don't pay the tax on the property, we're taking it away from you. It's just fundamentally effed up. It's wrong. It can't be okay. Find another way to fund what government needs. And I know that property taxes are used for schools and for local police and for first responders and city governments and a whole host of other things, county governments. I understand that. And I don't care. That's the point I've reached. And the reason I'm bringing this up again is I was talking about Bill Roemer. We were talking about, what it's going to take to try to balance the state budget if the property taxes are gone. And everybody in Columbus that I've talked to about this hates me for it. Hates me for it. And Vivek Ramaswamy, whom I support for governor, hates the idea of the property. That's why the commercials are out running right now for Vivek about, Ohioans, property tax reform is needed. And, of course, there was some passed in December and signed by DeWine in December. But Vivek believes in property tax reform. Vivek does not believe in property tax elimination. He believes in reform. That's what the ads are saying now. And that's what a lot of people in Columbus think, that it's all fixed now because there's $3.8 billion or something like that in property tax, cuts to pre-COVID or pre the end of COVID or whatever the phrasing is, levels. And they think that that's an answer. That's a solution. No, not to me. It isn't. Not to me. It isn't. Not as long as there's one. It doesn't have to be a plethora of senior citizens in particular who are, living Social Security check to Social Security check. That's all they got. Maybe they got a pension too, but they're on a fixed income. They don't get raises. They don't get bumps. They don't get, promotions. They just have what they have. and they can meet all of their obligations and stay in their home. But then when that tax goes up to the levels that it did, and they don't have a corresponding raise in income in Social Security, for example, then they can't pay that tax, and then they're gone. It doesn't have to be thousands or hundreds or tens. One person gets kicked out of their home that they paid for with their own money that was taxed before or as they bought the home and paid for the home for 30 years. It's too many. Anyway, I keep getting off the topic. Bill Roemer and I did an interview on the radio side last summer, July, I want to say. And he was complaining about the libraries in the state of Ohio, that the libraries were being funded as like the only entity in Ohio that didn't have a line item budget. They got a percentage of whatever the state's budget was. And every time the state budget went up, the library's cut went up instead of a flat line item number. And he was really upset by that and outraged by that and was trying to change that because we're spending just way more than anybody else in the country on our library system, which quite frankly, it's not obsolete, but it's also not as integral as it used to be, right? Can we all agree on that? When's the last time you needed to go to the library to look something up? When you have one of these or one of these computers or something. I mean, reality. Do you want to go in there and read sometime? Sure. Do you like to read a hard copy of a book instead of read it on a screen? That's fine. Libraries are good. Are there, purposes for it? Other uses for it? Of course there are. Research and resource rooms and a lot of other things. I get it. And a lot of people who don't have computers and don't have these devices home, they go to the library to use it. I'm not saying we should get rid of don't get it twisted. But Bill Roemer and I talked about how underutilized they are and how populated there are in the state of Ohio compared to the rest of the country, particularly similarly sized states, and is eating up so much of our money. Anyway, we were talking about it, like I said, as it pertains to property taxes. I was reminded of my conversation with Bill Roemer, so I called him up. I said, "Hey, Bill, let's have a new chat about the library." Since that time in November, things have changed. It is a line item now, but it's still extraordinary in terms of the costs. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ohio budget and a little bit about how those things work coming up at 8 o'clock. So in between now and then, like I said, it is a free-for-all Friday. It also happens to be a free-for-all Good Friday. And of course, this is one of the holiest and obviously the saddest days on the Christian calendar. Ever since I was a child, young Catholic child, cradle Catholic, and this is not to virtue signal. This is going to sound like total virtue signaling. Look at how, devout I am. Not at all. Just as a kid and ever since, honestly, there were times on every Holy Thursday that I just found myself stopping and imagining and seeing in my mind's eye what was going on at that moment in history. And it's, of course, the night that we recognize that was when Jesus Christ was arrested, Holy Thursday night. That's when he was brought to Pilate. That's when he was sent to Caiaphas. That's when he was brought back. That's when he was flogged. That's, everything that happened Holy Thursday night into Good Friday morning, which led to him hanging on the cross on Good Friday. And it's just the passion of Jesus Christ. Since I was a kid, I kid you not. And again, it's because I was a Catholic, Catholic school, the whole 9 yards. But I would think about it on Thursday nights, and I would just get very, very sad. And I would think about him hanging on the cross on Friday, and I would get very, very sad. And I would get a little bit relieved once the noon hour had passed, because I don't know exactly what time of day on Good Friday it was recorded that Christ died on the cross, but I was the relief that death took him and ended the physical suffering, the likes of which none of us can ever comprehend. Anyway, it's that day, and that's why I'm talking about it. That's the day. And it's sad, and it makes me sad to think about it that, this many years ago, this is what was going on to him. And obviously he will rise again in glory on Sunday, and we will all celebrate that part. But for now, it's called Good Friday, but not good in the sense that it was a positive thing. but it is certainly, part of this Holy Week that kind of just stands out. So when I say Happy Good Friday, it's kind of a weird way to say that. So we'll just call it Good Friday. It is what it is. But for our purposes on the show, it's also we're free for all Friday, and we have a lot of things we're going to talk about. So I want to get back into the chat here. Let's see what we've got going on here to get started. Sherbank is in and up early. Good morning. Good Friday morning indeed. Roz is reminding everybody to hit the thumbs up. No question about it. Let me see if I can delete that ridiculous auto post on the Facebook side and delete comment. Yeah, maybe that'll delete it from Facebook. Crank, there's Yo Jimbo. He's the one who's got me going with this. Like I said, it's the reason I play the whole song to start every day because he's fired up about it. Crank it up, let it roll. Good morning, Fred Frog, and all other Patriots. Let it roll indeed. Who remembers Fist Bump Friday? I do. I started it. I didn't continue it because it wasn't catching on. I wanted it to catch on, but it didn't. But yeah, Fist Bump Friday was something I wanted to do. For those who don't know, it was just a thing. Tell me the truth. You walk up to anybody and they go like this, put out their fist like this to you. What are you doing? You're looking at them and recoiling and walking away. 99% of the time, somebody's going to go, and they're going to fist bump. And it's just a way of greeting and a way of just, I don't know, a little bit of human contact, whatever. It's like, you don't handshake every stranger you see. But if you're in a line on a Friday, I used to say this on a Friday, but if you're in a line someplace in a public place and you turn around and put your fist up like that, somebody's going to greet back. And there you go. And all you do is just say Happy Fist Bump Friday. And I would love for it to catch on. It'd just be everywhere. It's a Fist Bump Friday. It just works. I don't know. But it didn't catch on very much, so I stopped talking about it. But yeah, there you go. Let's see here. There's so much crap on the screen that when I try to put these Fred Frog's got the thumbs up too. When I try to put these comments on the screen for you, it's so difficult to do this. I wish you knew. Good morning. It's Good Friday. Happy Easter weekend. And right back at you, Lisa. El Keister, good Friday as well. Sally, I remember Fist Bump Friday. We need it. So happy Easter to all of you. Yes, ma'am. And to you as well. CMG, good morning and blessed Good Friday. Pray for our country. You better believe that. You better be good. It's opening day. Yes, it is. I almost put on an Indians jersey today. I almost put on one of my Indians jerseys from my years working with the Indians. It's still hard for me to do, though. I can't. I don't own a Guardians shirt, hat, flag, sticker, Band-Aid. I wouldn't buy anything with a traffic statue on it. If I do anything, it's because of my memory of the Indians. And I've got Indians gear and Wahoo gear to beat the band. And I was going to wear one of those on the show today, but I don't know. I also don't want to support baseball fully because of, the wokeness that they still continue to, participate in. It bugs me. But you're right. It is opening day. And if you're going to flex anything, Cleveland baseball, flex something with Indians and Chief Wahoo on it. I've got shirts. I've got coats. I've got hats. That's probably what I'll do a little bit later on, I would imagine. But I'm with you, Fred Frog. I got you. Let's see what else. Don't forget to hit that like button again from Sherbank. Indeed. Lindy, bless a Good Friday to you too. Casey John says you're good. So I assume that's on the song. I Am Roz says, I love the song. I like having the whole song play, says Sally. All right. It seems almost unanimous here. B. Morgan says we like it. Sherbank, sometimes I come here just to hear it. Love the song Liberty Bell. So people are embracing AI because, like I said, I can't say I wrote the song because I don't know how to write music, but I came up with the concept. I wrote a few lyrics down. I dumped it into an AI song creator program that I had to subscribe to. So I do own the rights to it. Otherwise, the only reason I started doing that is because I didn't have the rights and the copyright to play songs that you hear on the radio, which I used to do. So I had to come up with my own, and I own the rights to that because I put in the parameters I wanted. Then it created the song, and bam, here we go. But yeah, I love the song too, and it earworms me throughout the day. It'll be 4:00 in the afternoon, and we were on here from 7 to 9 in the morning. And in my head, I'll be hearing "Crank It Up, Let It Roll," and the whole damn thing will just play in my head. Sorry, didn't need to use the D word there, particularly today. SF Cahoon. Okay. Again, your handles are y'all. They're your own. I can't figure them out sometimes and how to say them, but appreciate that. Lindy says, yeah, it does grow on you. It's our fight song. I love it. My kids like it. Easily could have been played at Trump rally crowds. I agree. Good morning, Black Belt. Red Frog likes the song. Keep it rolling as well. Song makes a great earworm. There you go. Roz agrees. That's what I've been saying for a while now. No property tax. Ron DeSantis. Hold on. Where'd I go? See, again, I've got so many things that I actually have to click in order to play these things or put them on the screen, I guess I should say. And they disappear. There we go. There's B. Morgan with no property tax. Ron DeSantis would be a great attorney general to replace Pam. He'd be a great president in 2028 too. But I know we've got a line there because J.D. Vance, I think, would be phenomenal. Marco Rubio, I think, might be the best of all of them based on what I've seen in the last year and a half. But Ron DeSantis as an executive in charge of this country, I would absolutely love every second of that. I'm with you. Let's see. It's typical government feeing you to oblivion. Oh, talking about property taxes. Government feeing you to oblivion. I call it wealth bust and distribution of wealth tactic. Okay, yeah, it kind of is in that way. Post a number of Ohioans who have lost their income for non-payment of property taxes. I don't know that answer. I don't know that, but like I said, if that answer is 1, then it should go away. If one person gets booted from the home they paid for, there's 11 million people in this state, almost 12. If one of them loses their house because the government said you didn't pay us on time for the right to live in what you bought with your own taxed money, you didn't give us extra taxes for the right to live there, then I want it ended. So I don't know the number. Happy napalm from Charlie. They sell it for taxes owed and you get nothing. Bob, we need your taxes to pay for the fraudsters. Keep working and pay lots of taxes, he said tongue-in-cheek. No property tax. Can we do what leftists do and lie, call it reform and wreck the thing? If it makes it to the ballot, it will pass. I don't know about that, Charlie. I don't know about that. And I'm interested in what everybody else says. I don't know if it will pass because I know a whole lot of people who work for local governments. I know a whole lot of people who work for local and county governments. I know a whole lot of people who work for schools, and they will rally all of their families and friends because their jobs and their raises and their benefits and so forth and their programs in their particular local governments, they're all counting on those property tax dollars, and they don't want to lose a thing. Understandably, nobody who's being honest would say, if I was still teaching, which I did in the early 90s, if I was still teaching today and, my salary was contingent upon the district passing levies, and if they don't pass the levies, we certainly can't also see a hit with our property taxes going down so that the school gets less money and job cuts happen. I'd be worried about my job. The younger teachers, because it usually goes on a seniority level, are almost certain to be cut. I'd be against this thing. I'd be voting against this property tax repeal. Probably, just because your own personal well-being matters, right? So I think there's going to be local government employees and families, first responder families, school employees and so forth, and their families are all going to be voting against this. I'm not sure it's a lock if it passes or if it gets on the ballot, truthfully. All my tax clients are registered voters. I have signing the petitions. Good for you, John. Good for you. Matt 6, Epstein Files Transparency Act. We're going to talk about Bondi here in a few minutes. Probably the reason why she got the boot. I'm going to scroll down a little bit past some of these comments so I can become current here. I want to keep the conversation going since it is a free-for-all Friday. Sherbing says, a great day to wear red for Remember Everyone Deployed. Visual reminder. Our American Legion post promotes it, and we always wear something red on Fridays. Wow. And here I am in a bluish shirt. Sorry, didn't know. Let's see, what else do we have here? The Ice song is good too. Maybe you get an album released in the future. Yeah, I do like the Line in the Sand song. I really do. It's another one. I just kind of told it what I wanted, gave it a few lyrics, I gave it the vibe that I wanted, the genre, because they'll make it in rock or in rap or in whatever. But I put modern power country, which is, kind of what I think that is. It's more like anthem type country. And that's what I got. And it works. I agree. Stop feeding the cash cow to these schools. How come public schools always cry poor? No one will, we will own nothing and be happy. If teachers union and their attorneys are all ready to fight, or the teachers unions and their attorneys are all ready to fight the elimination of property taxes. Yeah, you're exactly right. They are. So good stuff, chatters. Appreciate you very much coming in and weighing in on this stuff on a Free for All Friday. There's a lot to dig into there. And again, I've got Bill Roemer going to talk about the property tax thing with us coming up at 8:00. So here's an update on a story, and this is gonna be one that is of interest to you. Hang on a second. Let me see if I was feeling the vibration of the phone as I was doing the opening monologue there and the check-in. I wanted to see if he responded. No, he did not. I sent a text late last night to Tom Patton, State Senator Tom Patton. And I sent a text saying, you know what, sir, if you're free in the morning, I would love to talk to you about this because it's a really good one. Now, I know what you're already thinking as soon as you hear the name Tom Patton, and as soon as you hear the names of any of the other Blue 22 that we talked about, with such disdain for so very long when they sold out to the Democrats. And I still hold that ill will against some of these individuals. But I am also a reasonable person who gives credit when credit is due. And I think credit is due here. And I'm talking about Tom Patton's bill to solve the Ashley McTaggart dilemma. And we know what we're talking about, right? We talked about this some yesterday. We talked about it some on Wednesday, too. Ashley McTaggart, the Parma school board member who's conservative, whose left-wing woke colleagues want her off of the school board. That's the bottom line. And now they're using her deployment as an Air Force, she's an Air Force reservist. She was active duty. And as a reservist, she can be called back to active duty. And that's exactly what has happened. And so they're trying to get rid of her, saying, well, she can't attend the meetings. And the rules say we can't let her attend them by virtual, by phone screen or something. So therefore, she's got to go. That's horse crap. And we had Max Miller on yesterday talking about it. He's trying to get the Pentagon's attention to do something about it. Well, Tom Patton, Ohio State Senator, did something about it yesterday and dropped a bill. So I want to share this with you.
A new law could settle the fight over a Parma school board member called away to active military duty.
Fox 8 has shown you the board debating. Does Ashley McTaggart have to give up her seat since she'll be missing meetings while on active duty as a reservist with the Air Force?
By phone, State Senator Tom Patton told us he just introduced a bill to guarantee McTaggart would keep her seat even while deployed.
So we're now putting a bill in a law that says if you're an elected official and you're called up for military duty, you shall never lose your job or be removed from your job.
The senator introducing a new law specifically in response to the situation with the Parma school board member, but the law would cover any elected official in Ohio deployed for the military. Not clear how often this situation happens.
Just when you think this could never happen, it happens. And so then you don't really know how often this happens.
This video from last year shows Ashley McTaggart attending a Parma school board meeting, and she did take part in meetings before by computer when she had been deployed.
Hear me?
I can.
I would like it to be made aware that I am present.
But the board and its lawyer now discussing, can McTaggart take part by virtual hookup while deployed again?
Or should she be replaced?
I don't think at any point is anyone condemning any type of military service. No way, no how. The reality of the situation, though, is that there are legal and there are practical and operational considerations that need to be addressed.
We also wondered how long it will take this new bill to become law. The senator tells us he would like to get it passed by June.
These are heroes. These are people that know that they can get called up at a moment's notice, and shame on those people that want to see her removed.
U.S. troops fighting a war in the Middle East.
Now, new developments in the fight of a service member taken away from the Parma school board. In Parma, Peggy Gallick.
Ed Gallick, Fox 8.
Thanks to the good folks at Fox 8 for the courtesy of that, even though they didn't give me courtesy or permission. I'm assuming I can just go ahead and play that. It's posted on their website. And it's important. And I'm glad that they did it. And I'm glad that, more importantly, they had something like that to report on. So Tom Patton, kudos to him for this. Can we all agree to that? Can we all agree, even though, like I said, we're still mad at those who were Blue 22 participants? You have to put some things aside. There are some people who were Blue 22 who are doing some very good things as well. For example, DJ Swearingen is one of them, and he's working really, really hard with the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, and specifically with OAMF, which is Stephanie Stock's group, which is Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom. Some of these guys are doing some good work. We will not forget nor forgive the Blue 22 treason, if you will, not in the literal sense, but to the party and to the conservative agenda that the Ohio voters have given through the massive numbers that we have voted for, in terms of these super majorities. But, so while we won't forgive or forget those things, we are not going to hold the grudge and not commend and speak with and support positive things like this. And this is something that was well done by Tom Patton. And I'm very happy about that. And I see some other folks are as well. What do we have here? Blessed Good Friday to all. Let's have an attorney general willing to file charges and put some folks in prison. Amen. Priests will wear red today, and so should we, to honor our Lord's death for our sins. Yeah, that's one of the points I was talking about. During COVID, there were virtual meetings. Why wrong now, but okay then, Casey John said. That's a very good point. Yo, Jimbo, thank you, Tom Patton. Yeah, agree. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. And I'm not going to be insulting like that about it either, because I want him to come on. And I've met Tom Patton in person a couple of times. He's, handshake at various events that we've both been at together. So it's not like there's an adversarial thing there. But again, I have also been extraordinarily critical of anybody who was part of the Blue 22. I've hit it hard, and some of these people remember. So I wanted to reach out in a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Common ground, maybe. To say I'm very glad to see you doing this, and I am. I mean that very seriously. Anybody in the stand? I said this. It's kind of funny because I said this on the show yesterday when I was talking with Max Miller. The whole thing is easily solvable with Ashley McTaggart, right? All the school board has to do is kind of what Tom Patton just did at the state level. All the school board would have to do is saying, yeah, we got a unique thing here. One of our board members is deployed. God, we love that. We love the fact that she is committed to defending our country. Anybody who is an enlisted, active duty or reservist in our United States military has our utmost respect. We love them for that. That is phenomenal. We pray for her safety, and we will keep her seat warm for her for when she gets back. The exception to the no virtual attendance at our school board meetings rule will be deployment to defend the country. That's all they had to say. That's literally it. And instead they're like, well, we're gonna have to puzzle over this. And we're gonna have to, the bylaws say no virtual meetings, and we need every board member here to vote on stuff. And so if we can't have her virtually because she's over there, deployed and stuff, and the bylaws say what they are, well, we're just gonna have to replace her. Horse crap. This is a bunch of leftist woke board members, like almost every other school board dominated by woke people. They're looking for a reason to get rid of the thorn in their side. And as a conservative, she's going to fight for parents' rights. She's going to fight for all of the things. No DEI in schools, no 1619 project in schools, no, trans garbage allowed in schools, no pornographic literature in the schools. She's fighting against that, like other conservatives who have managed to win elections to school board. So don't give us any other garbage to the school board members. They are talking about maybe we'll have to replace her. We'll have to decide going forward. You could have solved it with a exception. I'd like to propose an exception to our virtual meetings rule. If you're missing a meeting because you had a social event, no, that's not an acceptable excuse. If you're meeting because you're deployed to fight for the country and for all of us, yeah, that's going to be an excuse. That's all they had to do. Well, that's what Tom Patton is doing here. He's trying to basically, codify that into law, saying let's make it an excuse, not just for her and not just for school boards, but any elected official is what the language that Tom Patton says, that is deployed, doesn't lose their seat their job for which they were chosen by the people. Uh-oh, MAGA's in the house. MAGA, what's up, big boy? I don't never know when this is going to happen because I never know when he's shut down in another room. What's up, Brian? MAGA. Hi, bud. Hi, buddy. You want to come up? You want to come up? All right, big boy. All right, big boy. I know you can't see him very well, but there he is. There he is. There's that handsome face. All right. Okay, go in the other room. See, that's the problem. My studio doors, when I built out this studio a little over a year ago, I made the doors open in to the studio rather than out toward the rest of the house. Oh, he's just going to plop down right there. Okay. My work buddy's in the house. That's kind of cool. The studio doors open in, and he's so big and strong. He's 95 pounds. All he has to do is give it a good hard shoulder nudge, and the door's popping open. And so MAGA comes in whenever he wants to, and that's all right. MAGA man. He's my boy. He's actually my son's boy. Let's see. What else do we have here? Yeah, even the blind squirrel thing. We need a conservative unity to win in 2026 like we did in 2024. We must stay winning. No question about that. We got problems with that, though, and we'll talk about why. During COVID, I bet school board only wanted to be remote. No question about that either, especially because Amy Acton told them they had to. They had to. You know, we got to remember that part of this. Any other reason is garbage. With respect to any other reason other than the, where'd that go? Vince on Rumble has a dog in his studio. I don't know who Vince is. Probably going to Zoom with uptick in cicada virus spread. More phony BS. I don't get that one, Macromia, but I might not be up to speed on it. Any other reason to miss meetings you're saying is garbage? Maybe so. So just make a singular excuse, and that is service. If you're in service to the country, you know what else I would say too? How about this? How about if we also say first responders who are on call? That would be another thing, because there are times, particularly like if there is a flu outbreak or something like that, and resources are stretched thin, and there are cops who are ordered in, just for the sake of discussion here. I don't have an example of this, but cops who are ordered in. I mean, my wife used to be a dispatcher in Lakewood. Okay. 90s. She used to be a dispatcher. And there were times when, because of one reason or another, all hands were ordered on deck kind of a thing, right? Where they would send officers to the homes of dispatchers and other officers to, you have been ordered in. We don't care if it's your vacation day. We don't care if it's your off day. We don't care whatever the reason is, because of emergency circumstances. You've been ordered in. You've got to go to work. And if they find you hiding, they'll fire you. All right. You understand my point? In the event of an extraordinary circumstance where first responders, police, fire, if they are needed to be called in because of a calamity of some sort, or for whatever the reason is, there's an order in, and that person also happens to be an elected school board member, and they got to miss a meeting, their job is safe too. So I would say just military deployments and first responders, called into emergency work. And that's about it. And you know what? Am I playing favorites in Senator Patton's bill here? Yeah, I kind of am. Because somebody else might say, well, my job isn't as a first responder, and I'm not in military, but my work is just as important to me and my family as anybody else is into them. And if I get called into my work, well, then I should get an exemption too. Now we're getting, this is what happens. This is why they call it a slippery slope. It's unfortunate, but it's real. As soon as one person is granted an exception, somebody else is going to get in that line and say, me too. So, maybe the first responder thing isn't a good idea, because then it extends. Maybe it's just limited to only 2 military personnel deployed while they are elected officials. But I agree with Senator Patton in this one. And I hope he gets the message, and hopefully he'll return the call or the message and agree to come on. Like I said, I didn't really I'm sorry, I'm of two different thoughts here because I'm reading something and I'm talking to you guys. I didn't really expect him to get the message late night and be able to come on this morning, but I just hope he agrees to come on in the future to talk about this because it's an important bill. And obviously, the Ashley McTaggart story is one that is, I think, should be important to everybody. And I'm surprised Libs of TikTok hasn't picked up on this by now, or some of the other real, like massive populated followings on social media hasn't picked up on this because this is the kind of thing that catches a lot of attention. All right, this is something that caught a lot of attention too. The birthright citizenship argument. President Trump, of course, showing up at the Supreme Court, an unprecedented event in which a sitting president actually went and sat down in the front row at the Supreme Court to listen to oral arguments as his attorneys representing the government said birthright citizenship must be ended or altered. It was never meant to be for everybody who comes to the United States and pops out a kid for that kid to be an American citizen. It isn't like that anywhere else in the world, and it shouldn't be. And again, I've used the example myself. If I fly to Australia and on vacation with my wife and she's 7 months pregnant and the baby comes early, guess what? My baby is not an Australian. And guess what? If we fly to Beijing, my baby is certainly not Chinese. Hey, look at my little Chinese child over there. No, we just happen to be giving birth while we're in China. You understand the point? It's stupid. And that's what President Trump said when he exited the Supreme Court on Wednesday about this. It's stupid. The idea that we would do this, we're the dumbest country in the world. He's not wrong. Well, here's what stupid really looks like. You ready for this? An ex-user who markets herself as a strong voice against Trumpism responded to the Supreme Court case challenging President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship and asking if Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump's citizenship should be challenged because at the time of their births, their mother, Ivana, was not yet a U.S. citizen. This leftist idiot named Andrea Junker actually thought that this would be a great gotcha moment. See this? So this is from Wednesday, April 1st. Seems like a good day to remind everyone that Trump's ex-wife Ivana was not an American citizen until 1988. She gave birth to Don Jr. in 1977, Ivanka in 1981, and Eric in 1984. Let's cancel their birthright citizenship first. Sometimes these people make it so freaking easy, with self-owns like this. You wonder where and why, by the way, and it's still up. I checked. This is still up. She hasn't even deleted this yet, despite being fact-checked by every kindergartner in America. Because literally, you could be about 5 and understand what's wrong with her ridiculous, gotcha moment on President Trump. No one ever said that a child has to be born to 2 American citizens to be an American by birthright. 1 is plenty. And guess what? Donald J. Trump is an American citizen. His ex-wife didn't have to be. Nobody is talking about changing birthright citizenship to the point where both parents have to be American citizens for it to be an American child. Donald J. Trump is American. Ivana didn't have to be. And oh, by the way, she was a legal immigrant to the United States, which also changes the game because the reason for the end of birthright citizenship is to end birther tourism and to end illegal aliens invading the country by the tens of millions and then popping out kids and trying to use them as the anchor to stay in the country, hence the term anchor baby. Fortunately, enough people called her out for this. Birthright citizenship only comes into play when neither parent is U.S. citizen. Did you not really know that? Tommy Lauren. Hey, dumbass. I didn't say that. I swore off cursing during Lent. And I've done a fairly decent job at it, actually. But I'm reading somebody else's words now. Hey, dumbass. Their father is an American citizen. Dogface Ponia, which is awesome handle. You kind of forget the part where Trump was a citizen and therefore they are citizens. Look it up, dummy. It's different. It's funny that liberals can differentiate between 85 genders, but can't tell the difference between legal and illegal immigrants. Hey, this is stupid. Trump was an American citizen, therefore his children were automatic. Thank you. Absolutely. Their father is an American, and so it goes. How dumb are you? Why would anyone listen to you is beyond me. She came here legally and was married to a U.S. citizen who later became our great president. And these people, like I said, they're just, it's like shooting a fish in a barrel sometimes. The self-owns here are just so deep. It's like I said, it's, in all honesty, it's kind of embarrassing for them. All right. I want to remind you of a couple of things here. This episode is brought to you in part by my friend, Mark King at Keeping Medicare Simple. Mark King has been helping to keep Medicare simple for seniors of Medicare age for nearly 40 years. That's a long time, 4 decades, to do anything. But to be a young man and to be so connected to the senior populations, this is what I want to help them with. And that's how he started this 40 years ago. Now he's aging up into it himself. But that's pretty amazing. And the reason he's been successful in this business is because he takes his time. He does not charge fees to give senior citizens who are going into Medicare all of the evidence they need to make the right decision for themselves. You see, Mark doesn't work for an insurance company. Every insurance company that sells Medicare coverage is trying to get you to sign up with them, and they want you to think it's literally the only way. And it's not. That's why Mark represents multiple carriers. He can show you, well, this is what this one does, this is what that one does, and this is what the other one does. Let's talk about your circumstances and find out the best coverage for you at the best prices. And Mark doesn't charge you a nickel, like I said. So, that's commitment, and that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm so proud to tell you, and I've been sending seniors to see Mark for now over 5 years, ever since I met him and learned about his business. Over 5 years ago, I've been sending seniors to Mark King, and I'm very proudly going to continue doing that because he takes care of you. He makes the complex simple. That's why the website is what it is, keepingmedicaresimple.com, keepingmedicaresimple.com, as you can see on your screen. And the phone number as well, 440-832-8936. That's the number to call if you're aging into Medicare or if you are already a Medicare recipient, but you want to find out if you have the right plan for you or if maybe you should do something different when the next opportunity arises. Call Mark King, 440-832-8936. And Mark is a dedicated partner, a foundational partner of this Strictly Speaking project that we are on, which includes the live stream. It includes, of course, the playback and, of course, locals. Don't forget, and I should share this too, don't forget, insiders, unfiltered insiders. This is for you. I posted it up on local a little bit earlier. We're making plans, and I want you to be a part of it. We're going to have a social event next week, and it is only for insiders, which are the paid supporters and subscribers of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. So if you are not in one of those, consider hitting the join button. If you would, consider hitting the join button, and it's right where you think it is. It's below the video screen that you're watching right now if you're watching our show on Rumble. And I'm going to share this one with you now just to make that easier. Yeah, there we go. There's us in the stereo, if you will. But right underneath, click that red join button right there. You can become a member of our locals community for free. And if you are a paid subscriber and supporter of this show, then you will be a part of the insider crowd, and you'll be able to join us for social events, and you'll be able to get special access to interviews and audio. And we're going to have personal in-person sessions with some of our guests as well that will be insider only, small group. Well, hopefully a large group. I would like to see more and more people become paid supporters of the show and get access to these things, but it will be only for our unfiltered insiders that have access to some of those very special things. So that's what I need you to know about that. All right, couple of others. Pam Bondi, yesterday, somebody brought this up already on the chat. Pam Bondi, gone as the Attorney General, and I have to tell you, I'm not saddened by it. Let me explain that a little bit more here. I don't want to distract you with any other images up there. I'm just trying to find the right way to say it. I don't like the fact that the president has to replace high-level cabinet members or appointees in the middle of a term. I don't like it because it suggests that the wrong decision was made. The wrong person got the job. The wrong person was chosen and vetted or not properly vetted or whatever the case might be. And I don't like that. I don't like the message that that sends, if I'm being 100% honest. That's kind of where I have a problem with it. So I didn't like he had to replace his Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. I don't like the fact that he has to replace his AG, but he did this last time too. Jeff Sessions was his AG at the start of his first term. Jeff Sessions did not then went ahead and recused himself when the Russia collusion hoax started. And that was one of the reasons why President Trump said, look, if you're not going to have my back and the backs of the American people who elected me against this nonsense, then you've got to go. And that's when, of course, he got Bill Barr. I don't like that. I really don't. But having said that, this is where I said I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to say it. Having said that, I do appreciate the president recognizing when something isn't working. And if something isn't working for one reason or another, fix it. And Donald Trump has never been afraid to say, going back to the Apprentice days, you're fired. And it doesn't mean that it's with malice. It doesn't mean that it's out of cruelty, but things aren't working. And if something isn't working, then you have to change it and you have to fix it. And guess what? Homeland Security, they were doing a bang-up job, but it wasn't working with respect to convincing the public. Kristi Noem was a PR nightmare. Her presentation was just problematic. And when you want to engender faith in the administration by the American population, you need people to present better. And they need to make better arguments when they're being questioned before congressional committees. They need to make better arguments when they're doing briefings to the American people. And there's a reason why Tom Homan did not like Kristi Noem. They clashed in a number of ways, presentation-wise as well as policy-wise. And I'm a Tom Homan fan, which is why when President Trump said Kristi Noem bye-bye, because of a lot of things, presentation, chief among them, the look was bad, particularly the very, very poorly kept secret that she was having an extramarital affair with Corey Lewandowski. That was one of the things that President Trump, once it became revealed, he was like, this has got to stop. Again, presentation if you want to engender trust and loyalty from the voters and the American people, you have to show the right face, if you will. And Homeland Security being led by her was not working. So I was glad he made the move. And we'll see. Hopefully, Markwayne Mullin is going to be way better at this job. And now to Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi, the face of the Department of Justice, was the wrong face. Again, presenting horribly. How many times has she been called before congressional committees to testify? That is fine. We called Merrick Garland to testify many, many times. Our side did, rather. AGs testifying before congressional and Senate committees is fine. That, they have a lot of things that they want answers to. And predictably, the left went after Pam Bondi and went after her hard. And her responses, let's just say, were more than woefully lacking. They were terrible. Her explanation of what was being done to prosecute or not prosecute or investigate or not investigate things that are important to the American people were just awful. I've never liked listening to Pam Bondi, quite frankly. I've never had faith that she's all over this. That's the true law and order attorney general that we need. I've never gotten that sense from her. But I want to know what you think the reason is for her booting. It's presentation. And again, gaining the trust of the American people is one thing. But another thing is doing the job. And when President Trump chose his attorney general, the job was to hold accountable the deep state. The job was to investigate and bring in those who did so many extraordinarily dangerous things to the government, including to the past and then former and then now present President of the United States. No one's been held accountable for a Crossfire hurricane. No one's been accountable for Arctic frost. No one's been arrested and held accountable for the lawfare against the president and then the leading presidential candidate with made up bogus charges that literally no one else in the history of America has been charged with. Nobody's been held accountable. We were told that when President Trump ran and won, we were told that there would be justice again restored to the Justice Department. Because we've had AGs like Eric Holder and Merrick Garland in the past. And we said, no, we're not doing that anymore. And President Trump is going to pick the right person. Pam Bondi had the resume, Attorney General of the state of Florida. But the results were just not there. We're a year and now 3 months into the term, and the results were not there. And then there's the Epstein files. Overpromising and under-delivering is a bad recipe in business and in government. And she overpromised everything. I've got all of the Epstein files. They're sitting on my desk, she said at a press conference. She didn't. They weren't. She had no idea. She had no idea where they all were, how many there were. And the answer is over 6 million documents were being told. And so far, about 3.5 million of them have been released. At least that's the reporting from certain circles, including those who passed legislation to release all of the Epstein files. And I'm talking about Thomas Massey in Kentucky and, a couple of others. I think Garcia is another one, a Democrat working with him. But anyway. But the Epstein files was a major source of embarrassment. Now, it did not help that the president spent a period of months saying it's a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. Let it go. He's dead. Let's go forward, which angered a lot of people who said, what do you mean it's a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax? There are real victims. We have evidence of real victims. And President Trump, as it turns out, wasn't trying to say that Epstein and Epstein Island and the abuse of trafficked young people. I won't even say just young women, because I don't know if there were young boys who were part of this, and I think there might have been. But President Trump didn't mean it was a hoax that didn't all exist. But he's saying the hoax that he or his administration was involved in, and that's why suddenly they want this release of information. That's what he meant, what was a hoax. And I criticized the president greatly for saying it was a hoax over and over and over again. But it didn't make it easy on the DOJ when the president's saying it's a hoax and everybody else is saying release everything. So, I get that. But Pam Bondi's overpromising of the Epstein files and then releasing things in limited scope with a ton of redactions, which again are understandable to the extent that they want to protect victims and their identities. But that entire thing was a mess. So I'm asking you in the chat, part of the thing this morning, I'm asking you, what do you think the reason was for President Trump firing Pam Bondi? And now Todd Blache, Deputy AG, is the new acting Attorney General. We'll see if he gets the job full time, or if, like a lot of people have already suspected and suggested, that Lee Zeldin, the current EPA administrator, is going to get that job. So we're going to wait and see. But Kristi Noem gone from DHS. Now Pam Bondi gone from the DOJ. These are two prominent people that President Trump put his faith in, and both of them had to be replaced. I want to know how you feel about it. Keep going on the chat. Great conversations going there. All right, we have just passed the top of the hour, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're going to be talking with a guest coming up here in just a moment. And before we do that, I want to remind you of another foundational partner here at Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And thank you to the great folks at AFP, Americans for Prosperity. AFP doing extraordinary work on the policy front to make Ohio better. And they're using the Buckeye Blueprint. This is they're trying to build a bolder and more aggressive Buckeye state so that we can get out of the middle of the pack in terms of rankings nationally to the top. I mean, literally to becoming number one in the country on matters of economic freedom, where people keep more of what they earn. And there are policies. It's not about politics. It's not just all about red versus blue and right versus wrong, which is how you should frame that, by the way. There's the right wing and then there's the wrong wing. The opposite of right is left, and the opposite of right is also wrong, so it works. But you understand the point. It's not just about the political ideology. It's about working toward policies that give Ohio more economic freedom. They give Ohio more education opportunity, where parents are in charge of their kids' education, not systems and not leftist school teachers unions and school boards. And energy abundance as well. We have so much capacity, so much higher capacity for energy production here in the state of Ohio. We could lead the country, and we don't. So basically, modernize American government that works for the people. The Buckeye Blueprint is how they're doing that. There's a website I want you to go to. It's buckeyeblueprint.com, buckeyeblueprint.com. And then also go to the website for Americans for Prosperity, AFP Ohio. AFP Ohio is a foundational partner and supporter of this program. And I think in return, it's the very least we can do to support them. Go to those websites, see how you can volunteer. But it's not just supporting them for quid pro quo. Support them because what they have is a tremendous foundation to help this state. And that's why I've had Donovan O'Neill on this program many, many times, and I'll continue to, because I support what they're doing and was doing that long before they became foundational partners as well. So please join me in supporting AFP Ohio and the Buckeye Blueprint. All right. Having said all of that, I teased this up at the beginning of the show this morning, and I referenced it was July of last year, I believe. It was July that I had Representative Bill Roemer on our program on the radio side as we were talking about library funding. Why? Who cares about library funding? Well, the fact that our libraries were so overfunded and so many other elements of state government were going hungry because of the weird commitment to library funding in this state and a few other things. I had Bill Roemer on because he was one of the leading champions of getting that fixed. Too many library districts in the state of Ohio and way, way too much money being given to it. And it was a real flashpoint of controversy and conversation amongst a lot of people. It came up again last week in the context of the property taxes. If the property tax in Ohio is repealed, they're going to have to find ways to cut from a lot of other overfunded, bloated parts of state government in the budget to be able to fund those that are going to be losing the revenues from the property taxes. So Bill Roemer's name came up again in conversations, both on air and off air. And I said, yeah, I had a chat with him about that. Maybe it's time for another one. So I texted him a couple of days ago. I said, Representative Roemer, what do you say we do it again? He said, yeah, let's make it happen. So let's welcome now State Representative Bill Roemer to Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Face-to-face this time, sir. How are you?
Good morning. It's wonderful to be on. And by the way, you were talking about AFP.
Yeah.
Magnificent information that we receive. As you know, I'm the chairman of the Ohio House Ways and Means Committee. All
yes, sir.
That comes through. And Hannah Cubbins, their policy director, Greg Lawson with Buckeye Institute, and Donovan O'Neill all come in regularly and testify. Adam Miller with Concerned Veterans for America, part of their organization, reaches out consistently. Excellent organization, lots of good information.
That is awesome. Talk about a perfect testimonial. That is great to hear you say that, especially right now. So Representative Roemer, thank you for that. We'll have to talk about that. Maybe we'll have a three-way conversation with Donovan because he comes on this program, and have you on as well, because that would be great. So as I kind of teed it up there, our conversation last summer was really important to me, but it came back, roaring back now because of the push to end the property tax. And that really started last summer, but the push to end the property tax in response to that massive spike that we all saw in our home valuations after the new auditing, and thus the increase in property taxes. And the threat is real of a lot of, senior citizens potentially being bounced from their homes because of property tax hikes, and they cannot afford it. They're on fixed income. So the movement has been started to put it on the ballot in November to have a constitutional amendment repealing property taxes, which then begs the question, what do we do for money? What do we do about that revenue? And the answer is stop spending too much of it in other places and start distributing it a little bit more, properly. And immediately the library funds came back up again. So if you would, tell all of our viewers and listeners about library funding and how extraordinarily massive it was and maybe continues to be, and what we can do about it.
Sure, Bob. One of the things that we have an issue with in Ohio is spending. Everybody wants to talk about the revenue side, the taxes coming in, but the spending side is a huge issue. And we have 6,000 taxing jurisdictions. In fact, Buckeye Institute, Greg Lawson points this out very regularly. Between library districts and townships and cities and villages and water districts and recreation districts and fire districts, we have more taxing jurisdictions than any state in the union, including Florida, including California, including Texas, even New York. So what we want to do is we want to look where we can consolidate where it's appropriate, because we have to get at that spending side. And libraries, when I started doing research on this, it's really hard to believe, but Ohio libraries are funded at a higher rate than any other libraries in the entire country. In the last budget that we passed, and I will tell you that Representative Jack Daniels and I, among others, worked on this. We had thousands and thousands of contacts. You're going to shut down the libraries. You're going to get rid of libraries. Republicans hate libraries. And the exact opposite is true. But when libraries are going to receive almost $1 billion in funding, libraries, up until we made the change in the budget, were funded at the same rate as all the cities, villages, and townships, with police, with fire, with roads, with parks, with senior services. The funding was the same, 1.7% of the general revenue fund. What we did is we changed that to a line item instead. So they're going to be receiving $490 million right now. Next year, $500 million. It's still a huge amount, and they'll still be the #1 funded system in all of America. But one of the problems we have is we have 251 library districts. Just in Ashtabula County, not too far from where I am here in Richfield, there's 9 library districts for 90,000 people. That means there's 9 executive directors, assistant directors, all the staffs associated with that, purchasing, auditing. We need to see consolidation where it's appropriate. And it's amazing to see how the pushback has been on stuff that to me and to you would be just very, very common sense.
Tell me why Ohio has become addicted to spending on libraries. And by the way, when we spoke last time in the summer, we talked about the fact that it was a percentage of the budget and not its own line item, and you were going to work very hard to get that changed, and you did, which is great, despite massive pushback, as you said, with all of the Republicans hate libraries things. But tell me how that got to that point in the first place, to the point where we're literally spending more than anybody else in the country on libraries. And then Representative Roemer, I remember you talking about some of the things that libraries do now to make up for the fact that there is really not that much of a need. Now, and I don't want that to sound like there is no need, but in terms of what libraries were built to do, to provide resources and also books for pleasurable reading as well, but it was a tool that was much, much, much more valuable before these became tools, and before the internet that we're on right now became a tool. And so much so that they are selling tools out, or renting tools out of libraries now, because they're not valuable or as valuable as they used to be for those things.
Bob, you're exactly right. One of the libraries in my district is lending out tools. If you need a metal detector, you can go there to get a metal detector. I don't think that that's really the function of the library. I think that ought to be false tool rental, where you go in, where you're supporting a private business, a guy that feeds his family by renting out tools. It shouldn't
power saws and landscaping tools and things like that. It's like a library. Our public libraries have become little mini Home Depots for some reason or another, because they don't even have enough business in terms of regular library patrons to occupy them.
Exactly. But by the same token, when we talk about property taxes, there were 20 library issues on the ballot this last November. 18 of them passed. So 90% of the library issues passed. So there's this real disconnect. People are saying, I'm taxed too much, but overall 87% of property tax levies passed and 90% of library levies passed. So like I said, there's just a disconnect there, Bob. We need to get back to the basics. If Hamilton County, with well over 1 million people, can have one library district, I think we ought to have one in other counties and things too. We don't need 251 individual library districts with all of those redundant layers of administration and cost.
You know, Representative Roemer, I completely agree. And I don't want to make this conversation all about libraries. You know, that they're a massive, massive chunk of the budget, which way more massive than they should be. But the bigger conversation here is, and that's where libraries play a part in it, is where else can we cut that spending? Your opening remark was exactly right. We have a spending problem in this state. It's not so much a revenue problem. And even if we were to cut out, and we'll talk about whether or not the full-on repeal of the property tax is appropriate, or if the list of reforms that have already been made are enough. We'll have that chat in a moment. But it's a matter of if that revenue wasn't there, would we have to spike sales taxes to 20% the way Governor DeWine said? Would we have to increase Ohio's income taxes in order to make up for that? Or can we just cut that spending that you're talking about on libraries and many other things?
Well, I would say that Ohio brings in round numbers, $30 billion between sales tax, personal income tax, commercial activity tax, and others. Property taxes in round numbers are about $24 billion. So you don't have the funds in Ohio for Ohio revenues to offset that fully. There would have to be other changes made. What we did in the last budget, and as you know, unfortunately, Governor DeWine vetoed a number of our property tax changes because people would have already been saving money right now. We instituted, and I was the chairman along with Bill Blessing.
If I may remind me, what is our budget? It's around 100 billion, right, per year?
It is. We bring in, not counting the federal piece, we bring in around $30 billion in property. State receives zero property tax, but in income tax, in sales tax,
right,
and CAT, and all the other fees and things that come in, around $30 billion.
That's what we bring in. But I mean, what is the actual budget, the expenditure that was laid out? The biannual budget is what? Isn't it around $200 billion for the 2 years? So it's around $100 billion a year.
It's less than that, but a lot of that is federal. And I'm without getting too much in the weeds, because I happen to be.
Our federal funding takes a big portion of that, but you're saying the Ohio contribution, if you will, to that budget is around 30 billion. So about 30 billion comes from the state, and the rest comes from the federal government, right?
Yeah, and other sources, but yes.
Okay.
And Medicaid is the biggest portion. That's about 50% of the budget overall. I happen to serve on the Joint Medicaid Oversight Committee and on the Medicaid Committee, and we are looking at fraud. In fact, we just had a very extensive meeting on fraud. We're not seeing what they saw up in Minnesota, but that doesn't mean that it's not going on here in Ohio. But
last year, since you brought that up, last year, Representative Mike Davila, I talked to him, and he uncovered, I want to say, like $6 billion in Medicaid fraud at that time. And that was just scratching the surface of what was going to be a much deeper investigation. Is that kind of what you're referring to, or are you something different? Or
no, you're exactly right. What Representative Davila did is he used LexisNexis data to track whether people should be on Medicaid or not, tracking their earnings through LexisNexis. It's a great thing to do. We have signed letters and requested that both Medicaid and Auditor Faber do deeper dives into Medicaid fraud, because we want to make sure that that's something that is not going to be occurring in Ohio. We don't want any repeat of anything and any vestige of what's going on relative to the situation up in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, sadly, I don't have a whole lot of faith that it isn't, because shortly after that expose that was done by the young independent journalist Nick Shirley kind of blew the doors off of all of that childcare fraud and all of that hospice fraud, and they're seeing it now. They're doing it in California. The same crew is out there, and there's just massive what used to be apartments that are now offices, all hospice care and all empty. Nobody's there, but yet millions and millions of dollars are flowing to each of them. And so as soon as that was done in Minnesota, a bunch of independent journalists started to do the same thing in Columbus, because as you well know, we have the second largest Somali population in the country after the Twin Cities, right here in Columbus, Ohio. And guess what? They found the same thing. So between Medicaid fraud, which Davila you were talking about, used LexisNexis to uncover, and just the again, surface scratch of what's going on in so many of the other things. I swear we can afford to get rid of all of the property taxes if we just ended fraud. If we just literally clawed back all of the money we're losing that's being stolen in, through fraud in the state of Ohio, I mean, we might not have this issue of revenue versus expenditures.
Well, it's something that has to be examined very closely. And the Republican caucus is united behind that. I know that Medicaid did some auditing last year, found a few $1 million here or there, but that was, as you said, just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So we need to continue to do that.
No question about it. So back to the question about the property taxes and about, you mentioned there were a lot of reforms that were passed out that the governor rejected. Tell me, and in fact, you sent me this, so let me share this with the viewers as well. And I might have to zoom that up a little bit, but that's a list of the quote unquote historic property tax relief bills. And it looks like I can't make that any bigger. Okay. Historic property tax relief bills that were passed out of the House, 124, 29, 86, 309, and 335. You don't have to read all of those to us, but give us a bit of a summation, if you could, Representative Roemer, about what these bills did and which ones actually were enacted.
Well, Bob, the good news is everyone here was enacted. What happened is I led the Property Tax Study Commission now, going on 2 years, and we made 21 recommendations. These were all parts of those recommendations. The governor then, we put those in the budget, the governor vetoed them. He said, nope, I don't like these. We're cutting too hard. We don't need them. There's really not a property tax issue. Well, guess what? He did his own commission. State Representative Bill Seitz and former Congressman Pat Tiberi were the chairs of those. They came back with 20 recommendations. And interestingly, they were all the same ones that we had done in my committee. I joke that we did a better job because we had 21 and they only had 20 recommendations. But I talk regularly with Bill Seitz and Pat Tiberi. And the governor we did everything, we did it again. And actually took some steps much further than we had done originally. And the governor did not veto those. He signed every one of these. So what it does, I'll try to, without going through each one in detail, it's about $3.8 billion in either direct refunds that people are going to start to see in July or in reductions in future rates. So rather than seeing the spikes that we saw, maybe like this, we're now going to see property taxes not increasing at more than the rate of inflation unless people vote for more property taxes. And one of our guiding principles, Bob, was that we wanted transparency. We wanted people to be able to vote on increases. And if they vote on it, great. If they don't, then you shouldn't see those increases. So what we did is, for something called inside millage, the 10 mills that go to cities, villages, townships, and schools and counties, we said that's House Bill 335. We said that can't rise at more than the rate of inflation. House Bill 186 is huge. That does two things. It says that school taxes, and we know that school taxes are 65% of total property taxes, those can't rise at more than the rate of inflation. One of them that's gotten kind of ignored, but it's really come to fruition now, you're seeing it in Medina County just last week. It's House Bill 309. There's something called budget commissions. And each county has their budget commission. And now what we said is they can look to see if schools or other entities are collecting too much money, or if they have their reserves. There's a school district in Medina County, the last time I looked, they had 138% carryover. They could not collect a single penny for the next year and still have a 38% carryover. So the budget commissions, we gave them the ability to say, nope, you need to refund, or you need to not put that levy on the ballot. That's House Bill 309. And I know that that's driving a lot of the public schools in Medina County crazy. We made some modifications to.
Well, what is it? Okay, it's driving them crazy. What is their answer? What is their response to that? Like you said, not a nickel could be collected and you still have 38% more than you needed.
Yep.
They have to have a response to that, not just be mad, oh, you're cutting our funding. How do they explain that their outrage?
Well, two things. They say that we really need those funds because we've got future plans. That's one of them. But we've
Yeah,
seen
for teachers union salary raises. Sorry, but that's what their plans are. But go on.
And the other part of it is they say, well, these are taxes that our homeowners voted on. We worked hard to get to where we are today, and everybody voted on it. But guess what, Bob? That's totally wrong, because of something called the 20 mil floor. If property values increased like this, you also saw taxes increase like this. Those were unvoted. And as part of doing that, you ought to have an opportunity, one, to vote, and two, not to have it rise at greater than the rate of inflation. So that's Highland Schools particularly was vociferously opposed to that, hired a lawyer, and the Budget Commission at least has temporarily backed off there. But we modified what can go on the 20 mil floor also. And the reason that's important is that's where they were seeing those automatic increases. So one of the bills that we did said that, it was House Bill 129, said that you have to count emergency levies, substitute levies, replacement levies, all those different kinds of levies. By the way, we reduced the one thing that we overrode the governor on is eliminating replacement levies. So we have done a huge amount. House Bill 124, what that does is that says the local auditor ought to say what's a comparable sale, not some bureaucrat in Columbus. You wouldn't think a lot of these would be controversial.
No.
And a lot of these did have Democratic support. I think every one of these had Democratic support. So there is recognition that property taxes are too high in Ohio, the 8th highest in the entire country.
Okay. So is it your position and that of your colleagues, Representative Roemer, that the $3.8 billion in reforms is enough, that we're good now and Ohioans should be satisfied? We saw you, we heard you, we listened to you, and we made these changes. We're good to go now. Is that the position?
That is not, I won't speak for anybody other than myself. That's not my position. I think we need to go even further. I'll give you just a couple quick examples.
Please.
Ohio has things called continuous levies. You could have somebody that voted in the 90s on a levy, and it's still going and going and going. I think those ought to come back to the voters at some period of time, maybe every 5 years, maybe every 10 years, whatever that is appropriate. That would be just one smaller example. One of the things we've looked at is valuations. As you might know, if you take 35% of the market value, that's what you're taxed on. Well, guess what? Maybe that's too high for residential homeowners. Maybe that ought to be some lower number, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the taxes are as low as possible for the people that own their homes, live in their own homes. The issue I have with the entire elimination of property taxes is the biggest beneficiaries of that are corporations. If you're Walmart, if you're Target, if you're Ford Motor, if you're Honda, you're going to see your property taxes go to zero. And that has to be supplemented in some manner because you won't see an immediate $24 billion reduction in spending. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that what we do is targeted directly at homeowners where we get the biggest benefit, not at corporations.
So let me tell you, well, I'll tell you something, but I want to ask you something first, I guess. Then what message do you have for the folks who are signing the petitions to get rid of the tax altogether, the property tax altogether? What do you say to them? I'm going to get that before I tell you what I think about it. Because as you know, this continues to be a huge push. I have been very supportive of it. I have signed a petition, and I've encouraged other people to do that too. I think the people of the state of Ohio should vote on this in November and decide whether they want a constitutional amendment eliminating property taxes so no one can ever be forced out of their home because they didn't pay the state for the right to own their own property, which is what this comes down to. So what is your message now to would-be voters and signers of the Axe the Ohio Tax petition?
Well, a couple things. As I mentioned, I'll give you a quick example, Bob. You look at townships, and we know townships are funded somewhere in the range of 90% based upon property taxes. And when I look at what folks say, well, the legislature will just come up with another way. And one of the things that's proposed is, well, we'll just let municipal income taxes be charged in townships. And by the way, I've got a bill on that. House Bill 503 to give people the opportunity to vote if the reciprocity percentage is decreased, because I think you ought to vote on just about everything. But if you say, well, we'll just let income taxes be charged in townships, that's not solving a fundamental problem of overspending. So that's just transferring. That's like saying I've got money in my right pocket, I'm going to move it to my left pocket and say I'm rich.
Good analogy.
So I think what we need to do is we need to let the things that we've done come out to fruition. Somewhere it'll be approaching $4 billion. So very significant. Look at some additional reforms. I mentioned two of them right there. By the way, one of the other things, right now, if you live in your own home, you get an additional 2.5% reduction on the valuation for tax purposes. We increased that by removing another piece on those rental properties and things to about 5%. So we've made a number of incremental changes. Let those play out. But I will say also for the people that have signed, I totally understand why people would sign, because there's outrage when you see your taxes going up 30, 40, 50%. I would be outraged also. That personally has happened to me, to be quite frank, because I'm in a 20 mil school district. About 500 of the 600 school districts in Ohio are called 20 mil school districts. And those are where, for every increase in the property value, home value, you saw a comparable increase in taxes. We also, one of the things that we did is we added in additional levies to take about 200 districts off the 20 mil floor. So you wouldn't see this increase, you'd see this increase instead. The other thing I would say is relative, it always comes up relative to people being foreclosed. We have multiple bills on foreclosure protection also. So I believe that there's a way to deal with foreclosure protection while people are still, paying some amount rather than being evicted from their homes. I think we can deal with that issue separately.
So you're saying that there is a solution to make sure no one is booted from their home?
I believe there is. We'll have to work through that, but I believe there is.
What was your, before I give you my last thought on this particular subject and get you to respond to it, Senator Jerry Serino has been a friend of mine for, a number of years and one of my favorite people to talk to. And I think he's done some really, really great legislative work in Columbus. He knows this. But what was your response to his statement that if you're a senior citizen and you can't afford your property taxes, sell your house and go live in an apartment? That was a direct statement that blew my mind. And I asked him about it at one point, and it was kind of a little dodgy, I guess. I haven't brought it up since because I know that it's a very, very touchy subject because of that statement. I thought it was cold and callous, and I say that with no joy because, like I said, I'm a big fan of his and a supporter of his. But that blew my mind. What did you take away from that?
Well, Senator Serino and I agree on a whole lot of stuff. I loved everything that he did relative to SB1 and
me too.
In higher education, fabulous. In this case, what I would say is that I think we can deal with that foreclosure issue separately. I would not be in agreement that people should have to sell their homes at all. I think what we can do is we can use the property tax reforms that we've put into place that guarantee that you won't see increases at greater than rates of inflation. So if people's incomes are increasing by 3%, their property taxes are increasing by 3%, it's those spikes that really caused people to have the consternation that they rightly did. We've eliminated those spikes. We've made changes. There will be some refunds coming here in July. I think we've dealt with a lot of those issues, and we need to keep seniors in their own homes because we know that 97% of people want to age in their own home and not in a nursing home where the state's paying Medicaid for that.
Agreed. So Representative Roemer, my last question on this is going to be more of a, I don't know, it's kind of a question and kind of a statement. I think the reason why there is outrage enough to continue to push this petition and to push this ballot item for November, and it's because from what people are telling me is that you guys, our representatives, our legislators in Columbus, didn't do a damn thing about this until the petition started. Until people said, screw you all, we're taking property taxes out of Ohio. all together. Suddenly that spurred an interest, and maybe there better be some property tax reform. Maybe we should do something. The people that I talk to, and I'm talking not just about those who are promoting this, the people who are behind, Axe Ohio Tax online at axthetax.com, I believe. But the signers as well, the people that I've talked to, they're mad. They say that you guys made this necessary because nobody stepped up to protect people from these excessive property taxes in the first place. And it's only the prospect of seeing a constitutional amendment wiping them out and forcing you guys to then start, as you pointed out, cutting spending, which nobody in Columbus seems to want to do. You've indicated that you do, but I mean, in a bigger picture, quote unquote, nobody, meaning there's not enough of a consensus to do that. The only reason you're acting, they say, is because of this threat of a constitutional amendment passing. What do you say to those people that this is too little too late, these reforms?
Well, I'd say two things to that. First, from a historical perspective, we passed last General Assembly, out of my Ways and Means Committee, the largest homestead bill in the history of Ohio. I couldn't get it through the Senate, unfortunately.
Exactly. That's their point.
So that was exactly part of it. The Property Tax Study Commission, where we made these recommendations, that was almost 2 years ago now. So we've worked diligently well before this. But what this does is this Axe the Tax, it has given a lot of support to the things that I've tried to do and others have tried to do. So we've been out, I'll say in the wilderness a little bit, saying we need to cut property taxes, we need to make reforms, we need to make spending reforms. Having this has given us a lot more support. People recognize it. The fact that multiple Democrats voted for every one of the bills that I talked about really shows that it's given a lot of credence to the issues that people are facing. So the reforms are not being done because of that Axe the Tax, but the reforms are able to be done because of it. It's
but I mean, let me just kind of go back for a second. The stuff that you're talking about that predates the ballot initiative, it didn't make it to the governor's desk, though. Like you said, you couldn't get it through the GA to make it to the governor's desk. Now suddenly here we are, in the year that this thing could very well be on the ballot in November, and back in December, the governor signed some reforms. Do you understand what I'm saying? That they're saying that there may have been guys like you, there may have been members in the committees, in the Ways and Means, and elsewhere to provide some sort of relief, but it wasn't a priority of the legislature as a whole, enough to pass things to get it to the governor, until now you realize, hey, the spigot may be cut off here of property tax funds coming into the state budget.
And that is definitely true. What I would say also is last General Assembly, I won't swear, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. We had a speaker who was elected by more Democrats than Republicans, and we weren't able to move stuff that we wanted to move. Allison Russo, as the minority leader, was very influential in not allowing us to move stuff through the Ohio House that we should have. Now we have Matt Huffman as Speaker, and Matt is very focused on this. He and Senator McCauley, President McCauley, work very closely together. And because the fact that we have a Speaker and a President who are very aligned and very cognizant of this issue, that's the other reason we've been able to move a whole lot of this stuff. Last General Assembly, we passed less legislation and less impactful legislation since the year I was born, which was 1956. So we've had a much better composition of our General Assembly to be able to do this.
Okay, and that's a fair response, and hopefully I won't get into leadership because I got some issues with some things. You're right what you said about the last GA and about the fact that more Democrats voted than Republicans, and we were sold out. Our agenda was sold out. That's another story for another time. It's a story that's been told many, many times, but I've got some issues with the current speaker as well, but they have nothing to do with this. On this issue, we agree. Both he and I and you and I agree. And this is of paramount importance. So we're going to wait and see what the Ohio people, I should say, see about whether this gets on the ballot, if there's enough signatures, and see where it goes. I want to pivot away from that while I have you here, Representative Bill Roemer. One of the other things you and I talked about last summer when we did a radio interview together is about e-check. I just went through it again. And not only did I go through it again for long story. My daughter is a Tennessee resident now, and we gave her our car, or a car, my wife's car, and so it's still in my wife's name, but it's in her possession. And my wife's birthday is coming up, and it's time to get her tags renewed, and we can't because the vehicle is down there, it's not up here. And the hassle, and the reason why we can't is because it has to go through emissions testing, because we're one of 7 counties out of 88 in the entire state that apparently are going to save the planet with less air pollution and emissions from cars, just because of our 7 counties out of the entire state, out of the entire country, and out of the entire world. We're the ones who are going to, it irritates the crap out of me that we have this still here because of situations like this. Now I've got to file for an exemption because the vehicle's not in Ohio, and all this other crap just to get her tags renewed. It's annoying. And then I had a friend text me with another problem for his son's car. And, hey, Bob, do you know if they're going to keep doing this emissions testing thing? And I said, to my knowledge, I asked Bill Roemer about this last year. He was working very, very hard to try to get this thing changed in some way, if not outright repealed. But I don't think anything has happened. So Representative Bill Roemer, since we last spoke about 9 months ago or so, where are we on getting rid of or reforming this ridiculous e-check nonsense?
Well, Bob, as you know, this is something I've worked on now for 8 years.
Yeah.
We originally passed 2 resolutions asking that e-check be removed, and the feds totally ignored us. As you said, there's the 7 counties in Northeast Ohio. So what I did then is I did something we called the E-Check Ease Act. And we said, instead of having to go in and get tested, you'll have a checkoff box. Like right now, you check off and you say, yes, I have insurance.
Yeah.
We would have done the same thing with guardrails around that. We passed that, and Huffman and McCauley were able to include it in the budget. And we're all set to go that way as long as the feds accepted it. I have met multiple times with federal folks. And what they are saying is they don't believe that the E-Check Ease Act has enough guardrails around it. That
well, what does it say? Well, what does it say? You didn't give us that part. What does the E-Check Ease Act actually say?
It says that if you have your car and you haven't been in an accident, it's been running properly, you don't have any lights on, all you do is you submit an affidavit that said my car's compliant.
Okay.
Rather than through all the rigmarole, rather than having to pay $300, now $450 for non-compliance and things like that. So it's I believe it's comparable to what we do with insurance, which is obviously very, very important.
So you said this was something that would get through Ohio, but the Fed said no go.
The feds have said no go because, and this was directly with Lee Zeldin's chief of staff and quality air director for the United States. They said that we know what you did, we like what you did. However, we believe the environmental groups will come in and sue. And we believe that if they do, we might have a worse e-check in Northeast Ohio. So now what I'm going to try to do, I have the location of every testing facility for air quality testing. What happens, I've learned so much about this, because we're right on a cold lake. We get these air inversions that bring in pollution, not from Northeast Ohio, because we've got electric cars now, but we don't have the electric plants. We don't have the auto plants. We don't have the steel plants we used to have. There's additional scrubbers and things on those. But they're saying that we were at 71 parts per billion for ozone, and we have to, and 70 is considered non-attainment. What they did is they moved at one time we were at 90, then 80, then 70 to be in attainment. They were saying we were in severe non-attainment. One good thing.
Wait, so they kept moving the goalpost every time we attained it? They moved it and made it harder?
Yes.
Just so we have to keep going through this crap?
In 2015, that happened. So what I have is I have the location of every air quality monitor where they do their testing. And I've heard some stories. Representative Diane Grindell from multiple General Assemblies ago brought in an environmental engineer who identified some of the locations as being inappropriate. I'm going to spend part of my summer driving around to air quality testing locations to see I've got their locations to see exactly where they are, because I want to get at the data. Because we in Northeast Ohio keep saying that we're a non-attainment. But then I've got studies from a Swiss company that said Columbus has the worst air in Ohio. So maybe we ought to move e-check down to Columbus.
Yeah.
I think we ought to eliminate it entirely.
Make them do it. Make every one of your colleagues, particularly those who live in Central Ohio, make them have to freaking deal with this every time they need new tags.
Yes. One of the things we were able to do, I have agreement from the US EPA that if they give any consideration, because there's e-checks all over America, if they give considerations, vehicle size, vehicle age, hybrids, that are where there's exemptions, they will give all those exemptions to Ohio. One slight piece of good news is the Ohio EPA is pushing back with not just myself, but many of our members helping on this, saying that the California wildfires caused some of the non-attainment we were in. So they are adjusting that data, backing out that, and saying that we are not in severe over-attainment. We are still in over-attainment. So what happened is, because they were saying we were severe, people would have to spend $450 if they were able to, if they were flagged at e-check and their car was not able to attain. I've got a guy, with a 2006 car, they don't manufacture the parts that he needs anymore. So he had to pay $300 every 2 years because they said we were in severe over-attainment. They raised that to $450. We'll be able to back that piece off a little bit.
Well, I guess that's a good start. But again, I'm so glad what you just said, though. You're going to go to each of these testing, or what are we calling it? Air testing, air quality testing centers. You know where they are, to see what it's like. Because again, you said these e-checks are all over the country. I didn't realize they're in every state.
They are not in every state, but there are many, many. I've got a whole report that my staff put together.
The point being, if the goal here, and I'm assuming this is all, climate change related, right? Air pollution, affecting the climate and so forth. How can it not be every state? How can it not be every city? How can it not be just universal? We're going to make sure that our automobiles are putting out the lowest amount of emissions possible, that the air pollution is going to be minimized for the sake of all of our health and the climate and everything else. Because if it's only being cherry picked in certain spots, again, it's insane. It's like saying that the United States should enact this Green New Deal scam that the left tried to push through to lower our air pollution and whatever else goes into what they believe is causing climate change, but allowing China to continue to be the world's largest polluter, and India too, way more than we are, and they don't have to do anything, and we're expecting our own little cut to somehow change the planet. That's kind of that's a macro level look at what we're talking about here on a micro level with respect to 7 counties in the state of Ohio. We can't change the freaking state or the world in terms of air quality. Why are we being singled out? I don't get that.
They claim that we are in non-attainment because of ozone. But here's an important fact. When I talked to the chief of staff for Administrator Zeldin, I said, does Detroit have e-check? Well, no, they don't. I said, guess where the pollution's coming from in Northeast Ohio? It blows with those northwest winds that come right across Lake Erie.
Exactly. We're in a west to east weather pattern. Everything that's there comes and blows through here. That's why the storms start there and they blow through here. That's our weather pattern. That's the wind pattern, for crying out loud.
Yes. And I've been talking with Kerry Coleman, who's running for Congress. I was a former weatherman, and he's even given me some additional insight. So we're going to keep pushing this. I want to now get at the data side of this. We did get the agreement that all of the accommodations that are given across the country will be able to be here in our 7 counties, but it's still wrong. People register their cars at their vacation homes. Your daughter in Tennessee, I had a person that's got a car in South Carolina. They said, they like to winter down in Myrtle Beach. Guess what? They drive that car, 800, 900 miles north to get e-checked and drive back down. Because if it's a South Carolina car, I think they have to pay $1,000 because the registration fees in South Carolina. There's 1 million gallons of gasoline that are burned because of e-check. Just people driving back and forth to e-check.
Think about that. That's a huge, present that to Lee Zeldin. And I
I
know
did-
Lee Zeldin probably won't be there anymore because he may very well be the next attorney general from what we're hearing. But I mean, you did present, you explained those statistics, and that doesn't move them.
I will say that the EPA is very receptive to what we want to do, but they're saying that my E-Check Ease Act wasn't strong enough with guardrails, and they believe that they would lose in federal district court to the environmental wackos.
Well, it's because the environmental wackos will judge shop and take it to a court where they know they're going to get somebody like a Biden appointee or something like that and lose. So yeah, that's just kind of par for the course. All right. Well, Representative Roemer, I appreciate the effort on that. Seriously, keep it up and let me know how that goes. By the way, when you make your little tour this summer of traveling to all of the 7 county points where these air quality centers or test centers are located, I would like to see what that turns up. But keep fighting the fight for us. It's ridiculous. We have to do this soon enough. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just property taxes, number 1 call I get. Number 2 call, E-Check.
I'm not surprised. When I texted you, those are the first 2 things that I asked you about. No, in part because you and I have talked about them before, but also in part because you've been working on this longer than anybody else in Columbus that I'm aware of. So you're kind of the guy on these things. So we really appreciate you doing that in all seriousness. Thank you. Keep the lines of communication open. If there's any advance on those fronts, by all means, hit me back up and we'll talk again. Okay.
This was great. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Representative Bill Roemer, appreciate that very much. That's a good man out there doing good work for us on a couple of really important issues. He gets it on cutting spending. Obviously, the state cannot continue to spend at the level that it does. It is way higher than the average for states of our size in terms of population. It is way higher. The library thing is still ridiculous. We are literally spending more on libraries than anywhere else in the country. And what he pointed out, there's 1 library district in all of Hamilton County, which is one of the biggest counties in the state. There's 9 library districts in his county. What? Wait, what? Huh? How can they justify that? Cut that money by half and reallocate it to local governments and to school districts and so on and so forth. They're going to be feeling the pinch when the when the property taxes actually are cut off. All right. Wow. That was a lot of really good stuff. Time to dive back into the comments. Actually, hold on. Let me check my notifications on X. I want to see if anybody is sending me any. Yeah. See, I didn't even really promote this. So I didn't. I wanted you to hold on, not notifications, messages. I want messages because I want to see if anybody is sending me anything as direct message on X as far as memes. Like I said, I didn't promote it other than in the description of today's show on the Rumble page there. I said, we're going to start meme free Friday or free to meme Friday, rather, not meme free, but free to meme Friday. And I want you to send me your favorite memes of the day, meaning what's going on right now in the current news cycle. Because the reason why millions and millions and millions of Americans doom scroll is because of memes. It's not because of meaningful content. It's because of memes. People love to scroll and see either the still shot or the short video, short memes to make fun of what's going on in the news today. So I want to start something. I'm just going to call it Free to Meme Friday because I do Free for All Friday, Free to Meme Friday. And the only way I can show your memes on the show, on the screen, is if you send them to me. And the best way to do that would be to send them to me on my X feed. So if you are on X, aka Twitter, find me, follow me at Strict Speaking. Strict Speaking, not Strictly Speaking, because of a character count limitation. So just so you know, but look for Bob France, whatever. But send me as a direct message your favorite meme of the day. And I'm going to start running through these and doing our own little doom scroll and having a little bit of fun as as Friday shows go on. So I'm looking at the chat here, and that's where this would have to be. You have to DM this to me, like I said, as an image on chat on X. So if you send that to me as a DM, I'll be able to get it and I'll be able to post those. So far, I only have one, and it wasn't even via DM. It was just posted at me And that's from, it looks like KC John. Notifications from, KC John, which is our man John Tamborello, who gave us the only meme of the day that I'm going to be able to share with you on Free to Meme Friday, because this has never existed before this moment. So it's okay. There we go. And no, that's not what I want to share. This is what I want to share. There you go. From KC John. Now for my next act, I'll make Democrats defend Iran. And by the way, that's a source of some really good ones that I've seen through the months, particularly of Trump's second term. For my next trick, I'll make the Democrats defend dictators, with like Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, which of course they did on cue. I'll make them defend socialists. I'll make them defend, and because President Trump is making them do things that they would deny ever supporting before Trump took actions. And then suddenly they defended them, and then they get called out for it. So, John, that's a good one. Thank you for being the first to do a meme for me. But like I said, I really want to grow that in the Fridays to come. Start saving your memes that are popular or funny to you. Again, current, memes from 20 years ago, not going to do it, but current news cycle memes. You start sending those to me as direct messages, DMs on X. And if you don't know that, by the way, just super quick, let me share this with you too, just so you know what we're saying here. You can do messages. Can I actually get to this, or can I not? Maybe I cannot. Hold on, let me try this real quick. All right, so that's me, obviously, but obviously I can't message myself, so I'm going to have to go to somebody else. So let me just kind of go to the home, and let's say, I don't mean to be condescending in any way, but there are a lot of people, particularly, those who are not super strong and internet savvy, who are just trying to figure this out for the first time, like Senator Moreno, for example. Okay, see the little envelope button right there. Okay, I click that envelope button, and I can send a direct message to Senator Moreno. That's what I mean by DM. DM stands for direct message. I could send a DM to him. So if I wanted to send a meme to him, that's what I would do. So you go to me and my profile, which is here, and make sure you follow, and you will see what you don't see here now because it's me, but you'll see a little envelope there. Click that, and then paste your meme into it and send it my way, and then I will roll through those on future Fridays on Free to Meme, as well as Free for All Fridays. So that's basically what it comes down to. Okay, let me hit a few more chats here before we are done today. A lot of conversations that we have held over the course of the last hour that people are commenting on. Yikes, says Sherbank, that's a ton of library funding. Stop voting for library levies for a start. My word, I agree. Jimbo says libraries are another slush fund for leftists. I'm starting to wonder that too. That's why there was always such a fight and a pushback anytime somebody ever tried to cut library funding. Why? Given the fact that we have way too many of them as it is, and the fact that they're struggling to find things to attract people to come in, that they're freaking renting yard equipment out of libraries. Used to be a place to go rent books, but now that nobody reads anymore. Used to be a place to go do research, but now that nobody needs the card catalog anymore, people go there to surf internet porn, for crying out loud, because they don't have their own computers at home. I mean, I'm not kidding. There's some really crappy things going on. And I'm not saying there is no use for libraries. I'll underscore that, like we talked about it before, but we spend way, way, way too much on libraries in this state. And if we're going to cut property taxes, that is a source for some new revenue to be generated. Take it away from the libraries. As a former librarian, that's true. Pay raises every year, materials, budgets, travel to conferences. The Ohio Library Association is super woke and LGBTQ. Thank you for that testimonial from the D.I. Winans. Thank you, from a former librarian. Let's see, what else do we have here? The libraries have too much if they're buying tools in the first place. Interesting point. I don't think we should have levies at all. Just learn to live without the budget. Let's see, what else do we have? B. Morgan says Summit County has 19 locations for libraries, one main library and 18 branches. That's insane. Sorry, not sorry. That's way too many. The Talmadge branch is just closed down for renovation, scheduled to reopen in the summer of 2027. Why? That's all. Why? They become a good jobs program for like-minded leftists. It's out of control and the left will fight like hell to keep it that way, then cry no money. Let's see what else do we have here? Charlie on the e-check thing. I'm sorry, this is Fred Frog. I have my vehicles registered at my condo in Ottawa County. Smart. If you can do it, smart. But yet you drive it here in one of the 7 counties that are supposedly polluting the state and the world. But nobody will know because you got to register it in another state. And I support you. I would do the same thing. Eventually, I think we've got, a few payments left on that car that we gave our daughter. As soon as that's paid off, we're going to transfer it to her name so it's registered in Tennessee and she'll never have to go through an e-check again. But right now it's still registered in our name. So therefore we got to do the stupid e-check thing to get it, the tags renewed. Put it on the ballot. It will increase conservative voter turnout for the midterms. It's a good point as far as the property tax. Politically incorrect mechanic getting in very, very late this morning, and that's okay. I want to skip ahead to see if there's any other real good content here. We get all of that bad air from Canadian wildfires. I was going to say from Canada in general, but the wildfire part too is pretty good. Can we charge back Detroit e-check costs? We should. That's where most of that bad air is coming from, that they're blaming on your exhaust pipe and mine. Remember the wildfires in Canada, how much it screwed up air quality for a couple of weeks? I do, yeah. Man-made climate change is a globalist power grab hoax. You are 1,000% Charlie. Agreed. I'm tired of these oil companies controlling our economy. It's BS. I don't think the oil companies are controlling the economy. I'm on Truth for the memes mostly, and Trump's direct news drops, no lame stream filters. That's good. And I'm on Truth too, but I hardly ever go there because it's really, really not as interesting and entertaining, quite frankly, as X is. But yeah, get the memes and send them my way. Seriously, we're going to have Freedom Meme Friday every Friday as a part of Free for All Friday, and I will roll through these and we'll just have fun. Anything else going on up here today? An apology from the politically incorrect mechanic. That's all right. We'll get you next time. And yeah, you know e-checks as well as anybody. The politically incorrect mechanic in Lakewood. That's Kalani's, Charlie's auto repair. Charlie's is an expert. If you get a fail at an e-check, take it to Charlie's, and for minimal cost, he will pinpoint what it was and get you a pass, and you'll leave with that e-check pass. That's what Charlie does. Love that about him. So you should definitely be in on that conversation. And yes, Macromia ending with a happy, blessed Easter, everyone. That's how I'm going to wrap it up too. Thank you for that fantastic message. As I said at the top of the show today, ever since I was a little kid, and maybe some other people are like this too. I'm probably not unique in this regard, but ever since I was a little kid, on Holy Thursday, particularly in the evenings, I would get sad and just kind of stop. And again, this is not a virtue signal. I swear it's intended to just be a shared experience kind of a thing. Because I think about Jesus being arrested, being sacrificed by Judas, and then being arrested, and then beginning the process of what would lead to today, which is his excruciating death on the cross. And so on Holy Thursday and Good Friday, it's obviously a very sad and, melancholy time when you're thinking about it. But we also have to remember that had to happen in order for Sunday to happen. And Sunday is the commemoration of the day we were saved, when Jesus Christ conquered death and saved us all from our sins. And that's exactly why we go through what we go through today. So it is Good Friday. To those who are true believers, God bless you. And those who are not even true believers, God bless you too. But please think about it and do whatever you have to do to hold on. I just realized that there's still a message up there. Again, Tetris. It's always a puzzle board that I'm working with here. There we go. But to the point that I was making, have a blessed Easter. Please remember it. And please consider, if you're not a Christian, you do not believe Jesus Christ is your Savior, who saved all of us from our sins through his death and suffering on the cross and his rising on Sunday. Think about it, consider it, and save your soul. That's it. That's the only message I've got. Thank you, everybody. Great conversations today all the way around. I'll remind you this weekend, as I always do, be well, be safe, and stay free. And we'll see you on Monday, next Strictly Speaking. Insiders, by the way, don't forget, Ultimate Insiders, get on the locals community. I've got a couple of messages there for you, and we need to decide on our next move. All right. Thank you, friends. If you want to be an insider, by the way, click the join button that you see on Rumble right now and join us in the insiders room. And we'll talk together. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.